Hey, welcome. So, we see trucks on the road literally every single day, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about what's going on inside? It's so much more than just stacking boxes. It's this whole hidden world of physics, strategy, and some seriously high stakes precision that makes sure everything in our lives actually arrives in one piece. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on that unseen journey.
So, let me ask you, when you see a truck being loaded, does it just look like a giant game of Tetris to you? Just a simple case of making it all fit? Yeah, if you think that, you're definitely not alone. But that's just the illusion. The reality, well, it's a whole lot more fascinating.
See, on the surface, it really might look like just moving some boxes around. But in reality, it's a deeply calculated process involving physics, detailed planning, and super strict safety protocols. We might think it's a low-skill task, but it's actually a critical profession that keeps the entire global supply chain humming. And it is anything but quick and easy. It's a high-stakes operation where one tiny mistake can lead to some really costly damage, or worse, a serious accident. And that's exactly why the planning has to be absolutely perfect.
And that brings us right to our first stop, the pre-lift master plan. Because, in the world of logistics, the most important work, the real brains of the whole operation, happens way before a single box even gets lifted off the ground.
It all boils down to three foundational steps. First up, you have to analyze the load. I mean, truly understand what you're moving. That is everything. Second, you have to select the right equipment because using the wrong tool for the job can be a total disaster. And finally, you have to plan the route, mapping out the safest and most efficient path from A to B. If you can get these three things right, you are already well on your way.
And when we talk about analyzing the load, we're going so much deeper than just how much it weighs. You have to consider its exact dimensions, its center of gravity, its entire personality, really. Are you moving super fragile glassware? Or maybe perishable food that needs a refrigerated truck? What about hazardous chemicals that can't be anywhere near other products? Every single one of these characteristics completely changes the game plan.
Okay, so once that meticulous plan is locked in, it is go time. We're moving into the loading phase, and this is where all that careful theory meets cold, hard reality. This is all about applying the science of stability.
And the absolute key concept here is the center of gravity. Now, put simply, that's just the balance point of any object. The one thing you have to remember is that the lower an object's center of gravity is, the more stable it is. Just picture a low-slung race car versus a tall double-decker bus. The race car is incredibly stable, right? The bus, well, it's much more likely to tip over. That exact same principle applies inside a truck.
This all leads to a really simple golden rule that every single logistics pro lives by: heavy, low, and centered. You always place the heaviest items on the bottom, get them as low as possible, and try to keep them as close to the center of the vehicle as you can. This one rule is the secret to maximizing stability and slashing the risk of a load shifting, or even worse, the entire vehicle tipping over on the road.
But of course, just putting things in the right place is only half the battle. After that, you've got to lock it all down. And for this, professionals have a whole arsenal of tools. They might use something flexible like ratchet straps for pallets of boxes, but for a giant piece of machinery, they're going to bring out the heavy-duty chains. Even simple things like wooden blocks and wedges play a huge role in stopping cargo from rolling or sliding around. It's all about picking the perfect restraint for that specific load.
Now, there's one thing that's woven through every single part of this process, and that is an absolute, unwavering focus on safety. Seriously, it's not just another step on a checklist, it is the standard that governs every single move. To manage all that risk, these pros use a very systematic approach. First, they identify any potential hazards. We're talking about things like a slippery floor, poorly stacked items, even something like bad weather. Next, they assess the risk. How likely is it that something bad happens, and how bad could it be? And finally, they implement controls, like putting up warning signs or using specific safety gear to get that risk under control before it ever becomes a real problem. And a massive part of that control comes down to personal protective equipment, or PPE. This is the worker's first and most important line of defense. From hard hats that protect you from falling objects, to steel-toed boots and those bright, high-visibility vests, every single piece of gear is designed to prevent a specific type of injury that's all too common in this line of work. And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of the whole philosophy. At the end of the day, the number one most important goal is to protect people.
Goods can be replaced, trucks can be repaired, but the safety and well-being of the workers, that is always the top priority. No question.
So, the truck has needed. It's arrived safely at its destination. But hey, the journey is not over yet. Unloading is its own special art form, and it requires just as much care and planning as loading did in the first place.
Generally, unloading breaks down into two main categories. First, you've got manual handling, which is all about human power. In this case, the focus is 100% on proper lifting technique. Bend with your knees, not with your back, to avoid injury. Then, for the really heavier palletized goods, you have mechanical handling. And here, the focus shifts away from physical technique and onto rigorous operator training and constant equipment safety checks.
And the machinery they use can be incredibly diverse. You've got the workhorses of any warehouse, right? The forklift and the pallet jack. But for massive shipping containers, you're going to need giant cranes. For lifting things in really tight spaces, you use hoists. And to automate the whole thing, you have these incredible conveyor systems that just keep the goods flowing smoothly. So we've walked through the planning, the physics, the safety checks, the execution. But why does all this incredible detail matter so much? Well, let's zoom out and connect it to the bigger picture. See, when a loading plan is done perfectly, it delivers on four absolutely critical fronts. First and foremost, it ensures safety, preventing injuries. It also drives efficiency, which saves a ton of time and money. It guarantees compliance, so everyone avoids legal trouble. And of course, it protects the cargo, making sure everything arrives intact. And the thing is, you can't have one without the others. They are all totally intertwined. Ultimately, this entire unseen journey, from analyzing a piece of cargo to that final unload, is what makes our modern world actually work. I mean, every single product in your house, from your phone to the food in your fridge, went through this exact process. It is the hidden engine of our entire economy. So I'll leave you with this one thought. The next time a delivery shows up at your door, just take a second and look at the box. Will you see just a piece of cardboard? Or will you now see the complex, incredible, and unseen journey of planning, physics, and sheer human skill that it took to get it safely into your hands?